Welcome to Deep Thought. Massive unemployment will affect many personal relationships. Yeah, I talked about relationships changing. And, and mainly I was talking about romantic relationships. But, overall relationships it's going to affect. Massive unemployment. One thing about money. It isn't everything. It's just up there with oxygen. It really is, because in this culture, even though many people say, oh, money ain't everything and stuff, many of the things, if you really think about it, many of the things we do and our self-esteem, everything is related to it. It's related to who we mate with. Men and women. Like I said, you get a lot of women, they mating with a guy because of his resources, his ability to provide. And many men, they mate with a particular woman because she's receptive to his resources and what he can provide. But then it's even deeper than that. Money says, where do you live? What kind of vehicles do you drive? What do you do for entertainment? How much do you travel? And especially for men, their money, that's their self-esteem. Our self-esteem is tied to having a job. I mean, that's just the reality of it, having money in our pocket. Because what does money do? It gives us the ability to act in our own interests and everything. Collectively, our self-esteem is tied to how much money we're making. If we say we're an attorney, we're a doctor, or we're a plumber, we're a carpenter, we're a construction worker. That's our identity, especially for men. Increasingly for women too over the past few decades. So that's one thing. And then, you're talking about how you dealing with your family, how you dealing with neighbors, everything. So now we have massive unemployment. Now, they always say, well, a lot of people might believe that if, once the restrictions are lifted, people go back to work. But even then, it will be slow. A lot of people still ain't gonna rush out the house. And then businesses, they can, even when they open up, they can't open up right away. They can't pay people right away. They gotta wait till the people come back. But a lot of people, they might be like, hey, you know what? We've been cooking at home all this time. Let's stay doing that. A lot of people going to gyms and everything. I know personally, I got I had ordered at the time of this recording, a weight bench and some dumbbells. And from the exercise I do, if I do go back to the gym, if it opens up again, it'll be on merely to do a bench press. And if I had a bigger place, I'd probably just put in a home gym. So, it's like, well, might not do that. So a lot of people still will be unemployed. And then, I mentioned in a previous podcast about automation. So, and the thing is, if you have this, who does this affect? Now, there's been sayings about people making more money on unemployment than actually working. Okay, but that lasts so long, and still that affects someone's identity. Seriously, a lot of people, because of the connection, the ability to operate, and then what you do for a living, which dictates where you live, all the stuff you do, it's going to affect many personal relationships. And like I say, not just a relationship with like a mate or something. Your friendship group. How often have people been in a group of people? It could be a man or a woman, and then somebody in there lose their job, they start behaving differently. Boom. Seriously, you be like, oh, wait a minute, okay. Or they trying to borrow something, or you loan something, or, and people start changing, because that's when you see people start changing their personality. When that money is, I've went through it. Like I say it a million times. I'm just a little bit further up the mountain than many people. Not by much though. You can still yell up. Shoot, some cases you could just whisper up and I'm going to hear you. So I ain't that far up. I went through some stuff. I remember a time, it was a period where the financial situation was tight. It was tough. And I look back at that and I cringe and pray for forgiveness. Seriously, I pray for forgiveness. And why? Because there was some stuff I did that I back now I regret. There was some stuff I said, did, tried to do that took me out of my character. But why? Had to get that money. The money wasn't there. So if that happens with me, and I'm somebody who, even since I was little, I always try to behave with honor. But, if I'm in a situation that got me bending my own rules, my own principles and standards, what happens with somebody else, a lot of other people? How you talking to people, how you interacting with them, how you looking at them. Oh, it's, yeah. And what if you have a situation where you're in a social group where, most of the members of it or people adhering to that social group are unemployed, they're not bringing in money. You start to see stuff. It's just like the same thing you see. There's certain circumstances you'll see a person's true personality, In fact, that's why I did a Sunday podcast talking about maintaining good character, especially in this time. Oh, yeah, you're going to have to. It's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. It's not something to joke around with because it's tough. You're going to see a lot of changes. You see a lot. People go through a lot. That's why, seriously, to the point of suicides. People, or they get violent. That's why sometimes, many a time, quite common. You might have a man who's been on a job 20 years, he get fired. All of a sudden, he come back to that job shooting up people. Seriously, almost every time that person had just gotten fired because that was who he was, and how much domestic abuse has to do with not bringing in money. How many domestic arguments because the money isn't flowing right. People can't do what they want. They can't live the way they want. So this thing is, like I said, it's going to affect a whole lot. I've seen it too often. And, that's why I would say during this thing, you got to maintain good character. And just remember, especially in friendship networks and stuff, you got to maintain who you are, who you truly are. Because, it's wild. The impact. Especially, even though there was already more unemployment than people realize, it was still, people still had that hope, still had that feeling. But now this is something on this level. It's affecting everything because one thing, the problem is when you have massive unemployment, then people don't spend as much. They're not consumers. And in this economy, that's the primary thing. The economy is 70% consumers. But if they don't have money, they don't spend it. They don't spend it, they can't build up these businesses who could then in turn hire them. So it's a vicious circle. Then that affects them, and it's wow. And then each individual, they're gonna start interacting with the people in their lives, their friends, their mates, their children, their parents, grandparents, cousins. They're gonna start interacting with people in a different way. It's a crying shame, but it is what it is. And I would just say the best anybody can do is just maintain that character, maintain who you are. The sun will always rise. It can always get better. But this is what will happen. Really think about these coming days, weeks, months, maybe even years. So that's all I have for today. Think on what I said. Peace and blessings.